It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah. D-U-E-U.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we are a quarter of the way through the 2020 NFL season. Week 4 for those that couldn't do the quick math. But as always, we have an action-packed show lined up for you guys this episode. But we'll get things started by taking a look at some of the key storylines heading into the weekend as we go into our 4-minute offense. With a positive coronavirus test coming from the Titans-Vikings game last weekend, the NFL decided to isolate both teams until further tests were administered. When the results came back showing that all of the positive tests came from the Tennessee Titans side, the league decided to postpone their upcoming game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers to either Monday or Tuesday of next week. Meanwhile, the Vikings have posted 2 different rounds of testing and no players or staff tested positive. So their upcoming game against the Houston Texans looks to be still good to go for Sunday. Second-year back Myles Gaskin got his first opportunity to start for the Miami Dolphins last week in their victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars and did fairly well in that regard. Being a productive ball carrier in the first 2 games of the season earned Gaskin the opportunity to carry the mail first out of the gate against Jacksonville. Now granted, he only ran for 60 yards on 22 carries, but he was able to keep that offense on pace and was a solid contributor as a receiver, hauling in 5 passes for 29 yards. If he can continue to provide that balance to the offense while increasing his productivity, he could really make things easier for both Ryan Fitzpatrick and eventually Tua Tagovailoa. Gaskin is a prime example of a late-round drafted rookie in the NFL who is making the most of his opportunity. The last couple of weeks were unkind to a few of the spotlighted rookies so far in this young NFL season. Washington's first-round pick Chase Young suffered a moderate groin injury, which will sideline him this week versus Baltimore, but the good news is that it's considered a week-to-week thing, so we may see him back on the field the following week. The sensational rookie from the Kansas City Chiefs, the cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, who already has 2 interceptions on the season and got injured in what would have been his 3rd interception in 3 consecutive games against the Baltimore Ravens, broke his collarbone during that interception attempt and will more than likely be out for the season. Another corner, Damon Arnett of the Las Vegas Raiders, re-injured his thumb during the Raider game against the New England Patriots last weekend and will now have to miss some time. So will Philadelphia Eagles wideout Jalen Reagor, who injured his thumb during week 2 versus the Rams and finished the game and did well, but he was put on IR this week, which will sideline him at least until week 7 or 8. So it'll be interesting to see who can step up in those guys' roles and be productive. And it's Nick Foles' time in Chicago as the Bears named him the starter for their upcoming matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Chicago pulled their ineffective starter, Mitch Trubisky, during that Atlanta Falcon game last weekend where he turned the ball over and missed some golden opportunities in the passing game. Foles immediately drove the team down the field for a score and ultimately led the comeback in Atlanta to get the Bears' victory. So we'll see if Foles can catch lightning in the bottle once again, coming in off the bench and leading a very talented team forward and hopefully through the playoffs, or will we finally learn that he's probably best suited in relief and we'll see Trubisky again at some point during the season. Let's kick off week 4 with Thursday Night Football's preview of the Broncos and New York Jets. The Denver Broncos will be starting another new quarterback this season. This time it will be second-year quarterback Brett Rypien under center. Rypien starred at Boise State and was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Broncos last season. He got into the game last week against Tampa Bay, replacing an ineffective Jeff Driscoll. He came into the game and went 8-9 for 53 yards and an interception, but he earned himself the starting nod on a short week against the New York Jets. Now, his start coincides with one of the key matchups to watch on the field, and that's the Broncos wide receivers versus the Jets secondary. With rookies Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama and KJ Hamler out of Penn State, along with the veteran Tim Patrick, the Broncos could give the taller, lengthy corners of the Jets some problems out there on game day. So it will be interesting to see how those guys like Bless Austin and Pierre Desir, both of whom are really good players, match up versus the speedier, shiftier wideouts out of Denver, who are some great catch and run guys. And it'll be interesting to see how much of the passing game they give to Rypien, seeing that he's getting his first start of his career on a short week on the road. Defensively for Denver, Bradley Chubb and Shelby Harris give them the ability to pressure, but they will definitely miss Jarrell Casey on the inside, who was the latest big-name player that was bitten by the injury bug as he tore his bicep in last week's matchup versus Tampa Bay. They're getting mighty thin up front along the defensive line, so we'll see if the Jets offense can take advantage. And speaking of the Jets offense, it looks like they've hit a home run with first-round pick Mekhi Becton at offensive tackle. He's just doing a fantastic job on both ends of offense. Hopefully, he and that run game can be what sparks this Jets offense in this ball game against Denver, as their passing game has been extremely unproductive so far this season. It'll be important for quarterback Sam Darnold to get into a groove early in the game and to get him some confidence and allow him to work himself out of the funk that he's currently in and gain some confidence. Defensively, I see a unit that's still very much active and aggressive in trying to create opportunities for themselves. Now, they have a chance to do good things in this ball game against a young quarterback earning his first start of the season, so we'll see what defensive coordinator Greg Williams can dial up to confuse or pressure Rypien throughout the game. In order for the Jets to have success, they can't allow Melvin Gordon and Royce Freeman to gain any traction running the football. Allowing the Broncos to have balance would ultimately lead to their undoing. I do think this game will be a lot closer than many people expect it to be, but I do like the Broncos to win it. The Jets have an unlucky combination of both ineffectiveness and injury, so I have a hard time seeing them beating a Broncos squad even with the first-time starter at QB. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Football Game Plans NFL All 32.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. People have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with a huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Now let's preview some more games, shall we? The Jacksonville Jaguars look to right the ship out there in Cincinnati as they travel to take on the Bengals. Last Thursday, the Jags laid an egg versus the Dolphins and couldn't stop Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now the Bengals, to me, are on the cusp of getting their first win, and I feel like this is the week where they break through and kick down the door. So I like Burrow and the Bengals over Jacksonville. The Saints travel to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions. Now, New Orleans has lost 2 straight games, and if they fall behind in this one, quarterback Drew Brees just doesn't have the arm strength to push the ball deep downfield to try and come back quickly. So it'll be up to Alvin Kamara and that run game to set the pace versus the Lions. Detroit is coming off its first win of the season and finally put together a total team effort in doing so. Maybe this is the start of a nice run for the Lions this year. I don't particularly trust their defense enough to get stopped, so I'm taking New Orleans. We'll see if Miami can stack back-to-back victories as they play host to the Seattle Seahawks. It's a tall task for the Dolphins as the Seahawks offense comes into this game red hot and their defense has been very good versus the run this year. I think Seattle will be able to take care of business on the road against Miami. In a battle between two winless squads, the Minnesota Vikings travel to Houston to take on the Texans. Now, Minnesota had victory in their hands last week versus Tennessee, but a turnover ultimately is what did them in. Houston is struggling to find a run game, and if they had one last week, it would have benefited them versus Pittsburgh. I still have to trust a better quarterback in this game to get the job done, and that's Deshaun Watson for Houston, so look for the Texans to get their first dub of the season. Baltimore is looking to bounce back as they travel down I-95 to take on the Washington football team. The Ravens couldn't muster up much offense, and their defense couldn't get off the field. Now, this could be the perfect get-right game, so to speak, as Washington's offense has been very inconsistent, and defensively, they are questionable at best at safety. So look for the Ravens to get back on the winning track on Sunday. Indianapolis takes on Chicago, and we'll see if this will be a different Bears team under Nick Foles, or will it be more of the same of what we saw under Mitchell Trubisky. What will be the same, though, is the Colts defense that has been both stingy and opportunistic to start the season. Their well-balanced offensive attack will serve them well in the Windy City. I like the Colts. The Giants will hopefully pack some offense with them as they travel out west to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Now, where the Giants have hope is that their defense, especially on the onset of games, have done really well. They just need their offense to sustain some drives and score points, whether it's 3 or 7. Unfortunately, in this matchup, the Rams' run game will be an explosive one with Darrell Henderson in the backfield, and that'll subsequently allow their play-action passing game to flourish. Between their offense and Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball being disruptive up front, I'm taking the Rams. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security, Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. StewardshipCredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. How about we preview Sunday Night Football's matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers? The Philadelphia Eagles find themselves in a must-win game against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, granted, it is only week 4, but potentially staring 0-3-1 in the face, the Eagles really need to get that W as they travel out west. Now, where the Eagles have a really good chance to get the job done is with their offense. I know quarterback Carson Wentz isn't off to the best of starts this year, but he does have the talent to quickly right the ship. Look for Philly to try to take advantage of an aggressive front seven in San Francisco and their defense by utilizing the short, quick passing game early on, which will help neutralize the 49er pass rush. And once that happens, expect Carson Wentz and those receivers to start to attack deeper down the field. Now, on the defensive side, it'll be up to the Eagles defense to win on first down defensively. The goal is to make the backup quarterback, Nick Mullins, who's going to start in replace of Jimmy Garoppolo, who's out with a high ankle sprain, beat you throwing the football. If the Eagles can defend the outside zone, which is a running play going to the outside, and put San Francisco in second and long or third and long situations, it'll increase their chances of winning this game. We saw them start to do this against the Cincinnati Bengals, but they just couldn't close the deal in overtime. Well, here's another opportunity to do so while also potentially grabbing a huge win in the NFC, which will be crucial come time for the playoffs. So let's see if the Eagles can go out there, take care of business in all three facets: offense, defense, and special teams. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, and this is a very intriguing matchup, one that will feature 3 of the best running backs in the NFL, in Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and also Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys. But this game, to me, will ultimately come down to which defense can make stops and which offense can capitalize on those added possessions. Now, this is a very tricky game because you look at what the Cowboys have on paper. They do have the speed up front to really get after the quarterback and make things difficult for Baker Mayfield. But you look at the Browns, their defensive line with Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson and company have done a great job in affecting the pocket. And we know once they get the football, they can ground it out with their ground game. So we'll see how that plays into their hands. Look for a very closely contested matchup, but if you have to take a team with a better quarterback that can get you through a tight game, I think you have to side with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. The Chargers travel out east to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and when you look at Los Angeles, you have to like what you're seeing from Justin Herbert. He hasn't been a liability out there at quarterback. He's helped keep this offense on pace, which has put them in position to win the last 2 games against Kansas City and also Carolina. Now he's going to have to come through on a lot more plays inside the red zone. I think that's going to have to start to happen once he gets a little bit more acclimated with the offense. Again, that was his first full start going into the week as the starter. I know he started his first game against the Chiefs, but this was the week where he knew he was going to be the starter and he was able to prepare and go out there and execute. So we'll see what he can do as he gains more reps. But in this ball game, the Bucs to me are just playing really good football on both sides of the ball. Their run game is where it needs to be. Their passing game is starting to click. I think this team is firing on all of the right cylinders at the right time. They'll knock out the Chargers. The Cardinals make the trip to Carolina to take on the Panthers, and this is a very good matchup between 2 quarterbacks that are playing very good football. Kyler Murray for Arizona and Teddy Bridgewater for the Panthers. But which defense will show up? We didn't see the defense for the Cardinals get those key stops late in that game against the Lions, which ultimately cost them the game. They also had some issues in running the football. Now, they won't see the run threat they saw last week against Carolina, although Mike Davis did a good job in playing his role in that offense. What they have to be ready for is a short, quick timing of the passing game coming from Teddy Bridgewater, who's playing his best football of his career. But I do think the Panthers defense took a great step forward last week in their game against the Los Angeles Chargers. I thought they did a great job in turning the ball over. Yes, they played a rookie quarterback, but it was great to see a team go out there and not give up 30 points. I think we'll see another one of these tight games that'll come down to the wire. I like Carolina to get the win at home against Arizona. The Red Hot Buffalo Bills take their show on the road to go to Vegas to take on the Raiders, and the Bills' Josh Allen is right now in the thick of the MVP race earlier in the season for what he has done so far in the passing game. He's the second leading passer right now behind Dak Prescott. So when you look at what he's done in the passing game, along with what they're able to do with the running ability of him as well as the backs that they have, their offense is really firing on all cylinders. Defensively, it's going to be up to those guys to make sure they stop the run and put Derek Carr in that passing game in a situation where they're going to have to throw the football more often than they want to. So if I'm the defense of the Bills, you have to key in on Josh Jacobs and make Derek Carr beat you throwing the football. For the Raiders, it's about making sure you're able to get off the field. Because of Allen's mobility, he does a great job in extending drives, extending plays, and finding guys deep down the field. That defense has to play great on third down. If they can't do that, they'll struggle. I like Buffalo in this ball game. Complete team effort, offense, defense, special teams, they're playing really well. Really good matchup here for Kansas City as they play host to New England, and the Patriots have to come in looking at that Baltimore game thinking, man, if we can play possession football, we have a great chance of knocking off Kansas City. It's easier said than done. Everything sounds good on paper, but in all reality, the Patriots do have to make sure they're able to hold the ball and maximize the possession with points. I don't care if it's 3 or 7. They can't have empty calories, so to speak, as far as their drives are concerned. They have to put the ball in the end zone or through the uprights. Now, defensively, it's about making sure you're able to keep a nice little mush rush against Patrick Mahomes. He's a great talent, but once he's escaping out of the pocket, he's able to really throw the ball anywhere he wants to down the field. So if they can't keep him contained within that tackle box, they can struggle. I think this will be a defensive battle. I like what I saw defensively from Kansas City, and I do think their defense, once again, will be the underrated story as they knock off New England. Monday Night Football has a huge matchup in the NFC as the Atlanta Falcons head to Green Bay to take on the Packers. For me, this game will come down to whether or not the Falcons' defense can finish. We know their offense can be very productive. They can put the ball in the air. They can move the football at will. But can their defense find ways to get stops and close out games? And can their offense keep their foot on the gas for 4 quarters? Green Bay is playing some of the best football outside of Seattle in the NFC. Probably one of the top 2-tier teams in the NFL right now. And when you look at Green Bay, you look at their offense, their balance on defense, they're active, opportunistic. I think they'll do a great job and keeping this Falcons offense from gaining any traction. So I think, again, when you look at Green Bay, you look at their defense, being able to frustrate Matt Ryan and keeping that offense inconsistent on the field on game day. I like Green Bay to win this game and move on to 4-0. So that's it for this episode of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.
It's DUEU tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.